What is good, Badger fans? As mentioned before, we are back with the second episode of A Shot of Whiskey podcast, brought to you by the good people at New Amendment as a part of Beyond the Big Ten Podcast Network. Make sure you go check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. And on YouTube and all of the socials, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok with the handle at Beyond the Big Ten. Josh Gosser, what's happening, man? What's good with you? How are you? You all right?
What's up, Jordan? How you, what's going on across the pond these days?
I'm back in London this time. So like we said, like we talked about, the microphone works, everything's on par.
So I can hear you?
Yeah. Got my Badger gear on, man. Everything is copacetic, man. So we could talk a little Badger basketball. You don't have to cover for me like you always did for so many years, man. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. Running the baseline while you got facing the floor. Yep. I had to step up for once.
Right. Me and Sam always complains about the spacing. Sam's a big spacing guy now, so he's a stickler. Every time we watch film right now in London, Sam's like talking about the other team. Their spacing's terrible. Their spacing. Guy's not filling the corner.
Yeah. All right, welcome to it. You taking care of Sam, or is he taking care of you? What's going on?
Man, you know, Sam's taking care of me, man. Sam's
I figured.
He's taking care of me, man. I'm just over here chilling. He's doing his thing. He just got back. He's got back into action last game. First game back in like 4 weeks, and coming back from injury. So happy to see him back out there, man. But let's jump into it, man. Let's jump into it. Badgers just won, what was it, the Fort Myers tip-off? Down, obviously, in Fort Myers, beating Robert Morris first, Virginia, and SMU. Not the craziest slate of games, but, hey, a championship's a championship, right?
You get a trophy. Feeling good about yourself going into a tough week, you take it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm watching the game, the SMU game, obviously being the championship. What were some things that you liked, didn't like, stuck out to you, etc.?
Yeah, I think with the tournament in general, I mean, starting with Virginia and SMU, I mean, obviously a rougher start to the year in terms of tough Tennessee loss, pretty putrid loss to Providence. So it's good to see them step up and play a little bit better, especially in the Virginia game. And then SMU, you know, I personally, you know, I got a new favorite player of all time in Wisconsin.
Wait, who was your top three before?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking like post-retirement, like guys that I've watched. Like obviously you and Frank are like, you know, my favorite, you know, whatever. But guys who I've liked watching as a alum, John Blackwell.
John Blackwell's the guy?
That kid is my favorite player I've watched in the last 10 years. He played for 4 weeks. I love that kid. I love that kid. The way he plays, what he does. But you know, that's a topic for another conversation. But just in general, I thought, you know, what I liked was our depth. I think we got a lot of depth. We can throw a lot of bodies out there, different situations. I liked that we closed out games. You know, specifically with the SMU game, Chucky coming up big in some big time spots, and that's what we missed last year. You know, we had a lot of close games, a lot of close losses, and to close out a championship game where it was kind of a back and forth game, the final 8 minutes or so, and we came up with the big shots. We came up with the big plays where last year we were on the wrong side of that way too much. So it's good to get feel good about yourself coming into kind of a tough stretch here and heading to Big Ten play. So it's good to see.
Have you been an alum for 10 years?
Getting there, man. 9 years.
Damn, you old as hell. It's been 9 years almost since that national championship, huh?
It's 2014-15, yeah. So
wow,
we're in 23-24. So
wow, that's crazy.
I heard there, you know, we host Arizona next year. I heard they're doing a 10-year reunion for the Arizona game. It sounds pretty, you know.
I'm being there lit. I'm being there.
That's where I was like. That's where I found out. I was like, wow, we are almost 10 years. Oh, that's crazy.
That is, yeah, man. Shoot, so that makes me what? 12?
Older.
Yes, you're 12. Oh, ooh, yeah. Anyway,
you're mid-30s. I'm still in my early 30s. You're approaching late 30s.
Don't put my government business out to the public, man. I done told you about that. You know about that. You know about that. But no, John Blackwell, man, he's 18 minutes a game, 9.5 points a game as a freshman, 50, and 84 from the field to start off the season. So yeah, there's a ton to like about him.
Numbers don't tell a story either.
No, yeah, numbers don't always. Kids, yep, of course. Typical Wisconsin basketball. We don't rely on the numbers for certain, but but no, you're right though. He's been great defensively, offensively. So I'm assuming that's been your what surprised you or impressed you the most. Do you want to, go into more depth and detail on that since you said numbers don't tell the whole story?
Well, no, I think we just were expecting in the year, you got AJ Storr coming in, Connor Sejan's going to be a sophomore. You got Chucky, you have Max, you have all these guards. Blackwell might be our best basketball player out there just in terms of he just knows how to play the game. He spaces when he needs to space. He cuts when he needs to cut. He doesn't get screened. He finds a way to get over screen to contest. He offensive rebounds. He's aggressive. Like, I feel like he just makes the right play, the right decision, and he does it aggressively. He does it hard. He does it in the right spots. I just really like his feel for the game, and I like the addition he adds to our team. He's one of those guys that he's just going to be hard to keep off the floor for Gardo and the staff moving forward, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out because Connor Sejan's only played like 8 minutes a game. He's not even seen the floor. AJ Storr is sometimes not out there. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the rotation plays out because Chucky's our point guard. Blackwell's going to be pretty hard to keep off the floor. And Max is pretty solid. And that's kind of so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here because, quite frankly, right now you can't have AJ and Connor out there together defensively. I don't think he trusts that right now. I think AJ's still learning. I think Connor's got some ways to go. He's trying to get healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that guard rotation plays out.
Backtrack it. John Blackwell might be the best freshman since maybe Sam in there, and then
he's playing better. I mean,
so far 7
better, but he's playing better than Sam was as a freshman.
A freshman, and I can't think maybe Orlando played almost 10 a game as a freshman, 18 minutes a game. That's pretty crazy to think about.
But not only that, but like the spark. Like he's the guy that we're on a 4-minute drought, and he's the one making a play, or he's the one making a defensive mistake. He's kind of the guy that I feel like people trust already, which is weird.
He brings a free flowing nature to the game, and
that's right,
like you said, a spark and all that. But to Coach Gard and Joe and Sharif Dean credit, they talked highly about John Blackwell coming in. I remember I got to play with them. What was it? Oh, the Hall of Fame weekend that we had, and I got to play with him, and they were really high on him coming in out of Detroit.
Yep.
And you could just see the length, and you couldn't necessarily tell he was going to be this good. So it's cool to see. But as a freshman like at Wisconsin, I would argue it's probably one of the hardest places typically to be a freshman at, just because you almost come in with the idea that you're not going to play, but you know that you're going to have to pay your dues, I guess, in a sense. You kind of shot right up the ranks, so to speak. So I guess for him, what was your mindset when you came in as a freshman? I just illuminate maybe what he's thinking now, getting more minutes and having the success that he's having.
Well, I came in expecting to just that redshirt. Honestly, redshirt potentially. Honestly, it was kind of my thought. Okay, I could come in and maybe back up you at the point guard position and give you 2 minutes in the first half and 2 minutes of the second half. Play 4 minutes and be perfectly content with that. Thinking that I had the ability to potentially do that, and I just listened to what you had to say, John, the leaders of the team. I worked really hard. I played hard, and next thing I knew, I was playing, and I didn't really think anything of it. But I think John Blackwell, has a different level of almost confidence and aggressiveness as a freshman too, in terms of I think he sees what's going on out there and sees that he's one of the guys athletically and physically that can make a difference on the court. So I don't know if you listened to the SMU game, but I think the announcer made a pretty good comp that I liked a little bit. He called him Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois. And Ayo obviously was a tremendous player at Illinois who ended up being a Big Ten, first team all Big Ten guy, and did some really good things at Illinois. And I could kind of see him getting to that point in a couple years. Obviously, that's a big task to have, but I think just the way they both move, their their free-flowiness, as you said, their ability, the versatility offensively, defensively to make an impact on the game with or without the ball in their hand. I think that was a pretty good comparison. But, yeah, he's got something that most freshmen don't coming in, especially the guard position, just to have that way to impact the game in more ways than one. When most freshmen come in and think they got to score, they got to do this or that to get on the floor, he's found other ways to get on the floor first. And then once you're on the floor, you can make things happen.
Yeah, scoring is kind of the byproduct of his spark, like you said. Like you brought that spark, and I think you hit a bunch of open shots and stuff like that. But he has that definite aggressiveness. I think it was kind of a similar situation too, like an older wing who had we had Rob Wilson, right? And they have Connor now. That being said, the one thing looking back on our teams with you coming along, I think where Coach Ryan maybe could have done a better job was to incorporate both you and Rob, to give us more punch and more depth. So I think that's going to be an important thing for Coach Gard and Joe and all those dudes to find a way to uplift Connor, for lack of a better term, while still getting Blackwell, because I think that can only make your team better. If you have a freshman and a sophomore who can get you 20 minutes each and be productive, and they're playing hard. I think one thing you learn as a pro is, and you can attest to this too, when you it's cool to play 35 minutes and everybody wants to be the man and play 35 minutes. But when you can play 22, 25 and you're fresh and you can play hard for those 20, 22, 25, you can still do some things and make a statement for the next level at the college level, doing that, like playing those 20, 25 and averaging 10 and 11 and looking really good, or even 8, 9. So I think that's going to be a huge thing for those dudes, the coaching staff and the players to kind of embrace. And if you could do that, I think kind of the sky would become the limit for this team, make them really dangerous offensively, specifically.
Yeah, you make a good point, because I feel like in Wisconsin, typically you're either playing 32 to 38 minutes or you're playing 8. There typically hasn't been that middle ground where you got a bunch of guys that are playing and maybe it's a game-by-game, matchup-by-matchup situation. Guys got to be more ready. It's typically been set in stone. I do think this team reminds me a little bit of that team that you mentioned in 2010-11, your junior year. Take out you and John, you're the All-American status, but everybody else, it feels like we have 10, 11 guys who could play.
Yeah.
I think that team too, and it's almost like, man, could you combine, Blackwell and Connor into one player? Could you combine me and Rob into one player? Mike Bruzewitz and Ryan Evans into one player instead of trying to find a way to get everybody out there together. So it's a good problem to have, but it's almost like, what is our 8 going to be? What is our 5 going to be, in crunch time? I think it's going to be a game by game, and it's going to be progressed along the season. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the coaching staff handles that, how the players, to your point, handle, kind of the influx of, good and bad moments. So, yeah, good problem to have.
And to me right now, I think you kind of have a staple of, who 3 guys, maybe even Tyler might not be out there some games in crunch time, which I think is fine. I think Chucky and Steven Crowell are going to be out there crunch time, most likely AJ Storr when he's making shots, right? But, the other 2 guys on the floor, I think could be Connor, could be Max, could be Tyler, could be Nolan Winter at some point. You never know, depending on how he's going. So again, I think I don't think you should combine players. I think you should just utilize, because obviously you can't do that. You should just utilize guys. You should just utilize guys' strengths, and again, that would be a challenge to Coach Gard and those dudes. But
I think AJ's only played 22, 23 minutes a game too.
Yeah,
so there's times where he hasn't been out there at the end because, again, he's still got to figure out the defensive. There's been times where he's just done a couple silly things that he probably worked at other schools where you just, you turn your back to the guy in the corner to go down to the post, and then they throw it out and you got to wind up and shot. And that's just not what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that happened against Providence. The guy missed a shot, but I was just like, ooh, that's not going to look good on film tomorrow when Coach Gard's reviewing that with the guys. Hey, he's still got to just learn a little bit. So I think he's got the ability to do that mentally and physically based on what I've heard about him. Really good, smart kid, but it just comes with time.
Yeah, that and shot selection for him too, especially from the 3-point line. 'Cause right now he's shooting, I think he's 6 of 26 from the 3-point line and 34 of 85 on the season from the field overall. So that makes him 28 of 69 from the field, which is 45 whatever percent that is. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but Once you get if he shot selection from the three, he's gonna be lights out offensively. So yeah, like you said, clean up the little things. On defense, one thing I would be worried about is where Connor Season's head is at right now, which is for fans, as for alumni, whatever. I'm sure for Coach Gard and them, in this day and age, college basketball, like what do you think he's gonna?
I know. That's the first thing that popped into my head too when I was looking at his numbers, like because he hasn't played more than 13 minutes a game, like in any game. Not like he's playing like 8, 7, But so I was kind of watching his body language a little bit on the bench, and he was as hyped up as anybody, as happy to win the trophy and celebrating and doing that. Whereas most guys, I think myself probably included, would be a little bit stuck to my chair a little bit more. So he seems to be a tremendous teammate and content with it. But at some point, he's going to want to get on the floor and contribute more as well.
Yeah, especially coming off that freshman season that he had, where he was arguably the best offensive player at times. So, yes. Or not arguably, he was the best offensive player at times. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. But something to keep an eye on for episodes coming forward. That being said, big win. Congrats to the guys. Shout out Coach Gard. First piece of hardware on the season. Hopefully more to come. And nothing bigger than the next game coming up, as you know, as a Wisconsinite. Which, again, I didn't know that was a thing until I got to college. I thought it was Wisconsin or Wisconsin's or something. So as a Wisconsinite, the Marquette game coming up, number 3 ranked Marquette at the crib at Kohl Center. I know what that game means to you. Honestly, and all, it does not mean as much to me as like just being from Minnesota. It started to mean more to me when I was at school. But
you think after we lost your senior year?
Yeah, even that, like, I was like,
like you reacted, it meant something to you.
Oh, that was tequila. That was tequila after the game. Yeah, that was tequila after the game.
You might have forgot about that night. I didn't.
I didn't forget about. I didn't know the power of Twitter. That was Twitter. Twitter was still new, so I was just talking. I was just talking, but. What would it mean to take care of business at home, or how big would it be of a momentum builder to take care of business at the crib against Marquette, especially where they're at?
Yeah, it's a fun game. And like you said, I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up 20 minutes from Marquette's campus. Just kind of a Marquette fan growing up. The D Wade days, Travis Diener days, and all that. So, but then coming to the other side, coming to Wisconsin, it's fun. It's just you like these rivalry games in state. It kind of brings the state together, kind of two sides, but. It's always good it's good when both teams are good, but especially when one team is good coming into your house. My senior year, I think we were ranked second in the country going to Marquette. So it was really fun to kind of have the underdog there trying to upset, a team. And it's kind of the opposite of that now. But I think we match up really well with them. It's going to be a fun game. I think the crowd seems to be excited for it here in the States. I'm here in Wisconsin, so people are excited for it. And, tough stretch coming up, not just with Marquette, but hopefully a good start to take home the state championship, as we call it, and get yourself feeling good heading into Big Ten play.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games, too, that can really it's not going to make or break your season, but it could be the start of something. Like you win that game, then you go to Arizona, who knows what's going to happen, but we'll get to that. But, yeah, it's one of those things where if you win – and then, the media is going to start talking about, are these guys like a really good team? How deep are they? This, that, and the third. Just makes you feel good as a team, as you know, and who knows what can snowball from there. Do you have like a Marquette? You have like a memory from the rivalry that sticks out to you?
I think my freshman year was a ton of fun. So your junior year, we went into Marquette. There's actually a picture that popped up on my Facebook. Yeah, that was a fun one. They had like Jimmy Butler, Jay Crowder, Dwight Bikes. They were pretty loaded, and we had you and John. So there's a lot of talent on the floor, and it's my first time kind of going back home. And Vanderblue and I were kind of same class freshmen out there playing, and down to the wire game, came down to like the last possession. We got a little steal at the end. You knocked down a couple free throws and just kind of talking shit to the crowd at the end was kind of my favorite part. And it kind of, my first moment in college basketball, I felt like was that, coming into a tough environment, a rivalry game, being on the floor and helping contribute to a pretty high level basketball game and getting to, kind of chirp to the fans and stuff like that. I always liked doing that. Even though it didn't show, it was fun for me. So that was probably my favorite memory of that rivalry. Every other game was, we won either pretty handily or we lost your senior year. But other than that, just as a fan, I always watched it growing up too. But that was my favorite. I don't know if you have anything different, but
mine was gonna be. I remember talking shit to the fans sitting courtside. But I remember you hit a free throw.
Line,
yeah, talking. And then I think you got the steal to really ice it for real at the end, right? Yeah. Right in front of our bench, or no, right in front of their bench. Their bench. And so that was probably mine as well too. And then, not necessarily a positive memory, but obviously the tweet that I sent out. I always, Dan Fahey never lets me, Dan and JD always talk about it after we lost my senior year. Hashtag Marquette ain't shit. You know the vibes. Yep. Yeah,
it's one of those things for me personally too. I have a lot of Marquette fans from my school. Growing up in the Milwaukee area, so like to turn those fans into Badger fans and to talk shit to those guys who are just being a high school kid and college kid, like that was always fun. And then, but it's one of those rivalries that I don't know what you went, but I went 3-1. Kind of one loss almost hurts more than 3 wins. Even though we got the better of it, it's still like, damn, that one that we lost. Yeah, it hurts a little bit more than the good the wins felt.
I think the one that we lost probably hurts the most because that was probably the easiest one on paper that I played in. I went 2-2. We lost when they had like Dominic James and Jarrell McNeil my freshman year.
That's stacked, yeah.
And then my senior year when they like just
at home too.
At home, yeah. That was probably the one where I was like, oh, we should have walked that one for to be honest, but. Either way, you actually want to hear a funny story is, I don't know if I think I told you this, but Vander, for those that don't know, Vander Blue was committed to Wisconsin, or remember that before you committed, right? And verbally committed. And he was asking me questions about being one and done and if he could go one and done from Wisconsin. And I just straight up, I was pretty honest with him. And I was like, it might be tight on you. Like, it might be tough, but I told him you could have success, but I don't know if you can be one and done. And I don't know if it was on me. He never told me, but I was cool with Vander because I played against him in high school too. And then he decommitted, pretty soon thereafter, after we had that conversation through text. So, yeah, you're welcome for your scholarship.
You're fine.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And it worked out well for everyone, I think. Vander is always a good player in high school. We play against each other a lot. Good dude to play against, and it's fun to continue that in college a little bit.
I just wanted Badger fans to know that I'm responsible for Captain America being at Wisconsin. That's all I want.
There's a lot more in that story that we don't need to go into. Nonetheless, yes, it was good. I have some interesting Marquette recruiting stories when I was in high school as a recruit, but I'm not going to get into that either.
So one of these days we'll get into it. Yes. We'll get into it. But then right. And then obviously after Marquette, let's just say in a hypothetical world, we beat Marquette, and then you go into Arizona right after that on the road, number 2 ranked team in the country, sorry, and you beat them. What would that mean to the program, and is that even a possibility? Is it a possibility to beat Marquette and Arizona, in your honest opinion?
Well, there's Michigan State in the middle of that, too, at Michigan State.
Oh, shoot, forgot about that.
So yes, those 3 games in a 7-day stretch. So I think it is a tall task to win all 3 of these games, but I do think we can take, if we can take 2 of them, you take that in a heartbeat. Going to Arizona, I think it's going to be a challenge. I think their size just presents a lot, and just traveling out to the West Coast, just a different style of play. I think it's going to be a big challenge, but I certainly think with the way we match up against Marquette being at home, and I think with Michigan State knowing everything that they do the same shit they've done forever. So do we, and it's just kind of going to be a battle. And I feel like we've been playing just as well as Michigan State has. So I certainly think those are the 2 games that stand out to me as very, very winnable. Is the Michigan State Marquette one. Arizona, that'll be a tough one, but it's college basketball. Anybody can beat anyone. And I think as one thing I've learned is these small, mid-major teams are better than you think, and these big high-major teams, Kentucky, Duke, Arizona, they're not as good as you think they are. So it's everyone is pretty in there, and it's just about who's playing better, who's making shots, who's confident, aggressive, and so I'll take 2-1 and be happy with it.
Arizona is and Arizona and Wisconsin's kind of butting into this rivalry, and like you said, especially with the transfer portal now, these these high major programs or blue bloods are not, I don't think, what they were at one point in time. To your point, but Arizona will be the most fun game to watch for me, just because looking at their roster, that's who I hope Wisconsin can kind of model this roster after. Just in the sense of their depth. They have, 8 guys? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that play at least 14 minutes a game.
Is it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys averaging 10 points a game.
Yeah.
Which I think is their strength, and that's along with their size, like you mentioned. But I think that's possible for Wisconsin, especially the free-flowing type of offense that Coach Gard's trying to put in. You saw in that last 8 minutes of the SMU game when they scored, I think, 30 of the 69 points that they had, because guys kind of started, early in the game, we were playing through Steve, and the ball would get reversed. We'd cut that Princeton action out, and guys wouldn't even look for the ball in that Princeton cut. And then later in the game, it just got much more aggressive, where everybody was looking to score, everybody was looking for their opportunity. And when you have freedom and things like that, it really just becomes does each individual have the responsibility to take good shots, pass up good shots for great shots, but everybody's got to be aggressive in that sense. So I think that's possible with this group of guys, and I think you have, between Max and from AJ, Tyler, Chucky, Steven, John Blackwell, Max, Connor, and even Nolan, if you play him, that's 8 guys that I think can score on any given night 10 to 15 points. So I think that can be a strength of the team. Right now you have 4 or 5 guys averaging around 10 points, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a good problem to have, like I said. And I don't know, I shouldn't have said we were going to lose to Arizona, because we have Arizona's number. I like Arizona.
I was about to say, he ain't lost to Arizona in a minute. Man. So
only positive things to say about Arizona. We played down in Tucson. Didn't we play the NCAA tournament? That was a cool place to play. I'm sure it's gonna be a cool place with Arizona fans too. That'd be fun.
We won in Tucson too. Won both games in Tucson. So yeah, we you're right. Yeah,
Wisconsin does well against Minnesota.
Yeah, we like it down there. It's probably because half the Wisconsin alumni community goes down there in the winter, I'm sure. So that's right. I'm sure there'll be plenty of Badger fans down there in the beginning of December to cheer on the group. And Michigan State, and they're 4-3. They haven't been the same in the past couple of years, so I'm not too worried about that. But we shall see how it goes, my man. And
going into Breslin is going into Breslin, though. It's did you ever win at Breslin?
No, that's actually
the only place I never won. The
only place you haven't won, right?
I think so. Other than Rutgers, it was just 1 year in the Big Ten or something when I was there.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone who's been in Maryland was only there 1 year. So the original Big Ten that was there for all 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
Breslin's the only place. I don't know, but I think we've had trouble.
Breslin is the only gym that your freshman year is the only gym that I didn't win in. We were up 9 with 2.5 minutes left. John tried to turn into, I don't know who John thought he was, man. Tried to go in between the legs, got ripped by Draymond. It's
now they're on Draymond. You can't do
that. But John was a Draymond killer in college, though, so you let him slide for that.
Yep.
We let him slide, man. But that is all that we got for you guys this week, man. We appreciate you checking us out. And make sure you go follow along again on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you get your podcasts, and on YouTube, and on all other socials, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok with the handle at Beyond the Big Ten. I am Jordan Taylor. That's Josh Gasser. We'll catch y'all next time.